These are the 10 moments that prove Michael van Gerwen is not just the most dominant darts player of the modern era, but something the sport had never seen before and may never see again. 10 moments of pure, verified, undeniable genius, counted down right now. Before the list starts, you need to understand exactly what we are dealing with. Born on the 25th of April, 1989 in Boxtel in the Netherlands, Van Gerwen spent part of his early working life as a tiler, and his most famous job in that trade was tiling Dennis Bergkamp's bathroom. From plastering tiles in an Arsenal legend's house to holding every major record in professional darts. That is the Van Gerwen story compressed into one sentence. Walking to the Yoki to Seven Nation Army, nicknamed Mighty Mike, he ended up winning over 159 PDC titles across his career, including 48 majors, 3 world championships, and a record-breaking 7 Premier League titles, 2,559 consecutive days at world number 1, and he carried that for years while every player on the circuit was trying specifically and desperately to knock him off. Nobody managed it for the better part of a decade. Here are the 10 moments that explain why. Every dynasty starts somewhere, and for Van Gerwen, that somewhere was the 2006 Winmau World Masters at 17 years old. Trailing Martin Adams 1 set to 4 and 2 legs to 5 inside a set, he had no business winning that match on paper, but he came back and closed it out, becoming the youngest Winmau World Masters champion in history, and breaking a record that had previously belonged to Eric Bristow. What nobody could have known at the time was that this result was not an accident, it was a preview. Coming back from positions that should be unrecoverable would become the defining feature of everything Van Gerwen did from that moment forward, and the sport would spend the next 2 decades trying to figure out how to stop him doing it. 6 years after Winmau, Van Gerwen still had not won a PDC major, and the 2012 World Grand Prix against Mervyn King suggested that drought might continue a little longer. Down 0 sets to 3, then 1 set to 4, he was 1 set from elimination, and King was playing well enough to finish the job. What happened instead was Van Gerwen winning 5 of the final 6 sets and taking the title 6 sets to 4, claiming his first PDC major in a recovery that very few players would have attempted, let alone completed. That win established a pattern that would define the next decade. Not just that Van Gerwen could absorb pressure, but that he seemed to perform better the more of it landed on him. The sport had not really encountered that before. On the 30th of December 2012, in the semi-final of the PDC World Championship at Alexandra Palace, Van Gerwen stepped up against James Wade and produced one of the most statistically extraordinary sequences in the history of the sport. A 9-dart finish came first, 180, 177, then triple 20, triple 20, double 12. 9 darts, every one of them exactly where it needed to be, leg over. And then he started the next leg, 8 more perfect darts before finally missing double 12, which meant 19 consecutive perfect darts across 2 consecutive legs. A record that still stands as of today and has never been matched by anyone. Breaking that record would require hitting a 9-darter and then essentially beginning another one immediately, and the mathematical probability of that sequence is so extreme it barely belongs in sports statistics at all. That record is Van Gerwen's alone, and nobody has come close. Phil Taylor had won the Premier League 6 times, and in the 2013 final, he held a 5 legs to 2 lead over Van Gerwen in a best of 19 match, which is exactly the kind of position experienced champions convert. 5 consecutive legs came back in Van Gerwen's direction, and he sealed the title with a 132 checkout, bull, bull, double 16, after missing 2 match darts earlier in the same leg. Sharod Stud called that final probably the most defining darts match of the Premier League era, and the reason that description holds up is what happened afterward. Van Gerwen won the Premier League 7 times in total. Taylor, already regarded as the greatest player in the history of the sport, never won it again. The 2013 final was not just a comeback win, it was a transfer of power, and everyone watching understood it. Anderson needed 1 leg from a 10 sets to 7 lead in the 2015 European Championship final, which in practical terms meant the title was his. Van Gerwen won the next 4 legs without giving Anderson a single dart at a double across any of them, locked him out of the match entirely while it was happening, and then took out 75 in the deciding leg to win 11 sets to 10. Anderson was ranked world number 2 at the time and averaged over 100 in defeat, and the result still went against him. That is the detail that separates this comeback from a lucky run of legs. Van Gerwen did not just outscore Anderson in those final legs, he denied him any opportunity to respond. The gear change was total, it was controlled, and it happened when one more leg against him would have ended the match. Locked at 8 legs each in the semi-final of the 2016 Grand Slam against Peter Wright, the match sat on a knife edge and Wright was on 25 just tops to take the lead for the first time all night. Van Gerwen stepped to the oche first and took out 139. In the blink of an eye, before Wright could process what had just happened, that checkout did not just win a leg, it ended a player's night psychologically. Wright won 2 of the remaining 10 legs, and Van Gerwen closed the match out 16-10. Wayne Mardle has spoken about how Van Gerwen times big finishes, specifically for maximum psychological damage, and this was the clearest example of that skill on record. The right finish, the right moment, delivered before his opponent could breathe. Most players build a career around winning one major in a year, and a genuinely great year might produce 2. In 2016, Van Gerwen won 25 titles across the calendar year, 9 of which were PDC majors spanning the World Match Play, the Grand Slam, the UK Open, the World Grand Prix, and the Premier League. His match win rate across the season landed at 91%, and he earned £1.5 million in prize money from that single year alone. Watching from snooker, me and Ronnie O'Sullivan put it like this: Michael and Usain Bolt are the 2 top boys in any sport worldwide. Van Gerwen is amazing, he's unbelievable, I think he is the best sportsman on the planet. That was the external view of the 2016 season as it unfolded, and O'Sullivan was not alone in reaching for that kind of language to describe what was happening. Aberdeen, the 25th of February 2016, Premier League Darts, Week 4. Van Gerwen against Michael Smith, and the result was 7 legs to 1 with an average of 123.40. The highest 3-dart average ever recorded in televised darts, confirmed by Guinness World Records, a record that still stands as of March 2026. At various points during the match, his running average exceeded 137. And 3 missed darts at double 18 in the final leg. Darts that would have completed a 7-0 whitewash, would have pushed the final figure somewhere above 132 had any of them gone in. Rod Harrington watched it and said, "Phil Taylor set the bar, and I personally didn't think it could be set much higher, but what Michael has done has proven to me that the bar can go a lot higher." The previous record had been Taylor's 118.66, and Van Gerwen did not edge past it. He left it in a different category entirely. The 1st of January 2017, Alexandra Palace, semi-final of the PDC World Championship. Van Gerwen against Raymond van Barneveld, 6 sets to 2. With an average of 114.05, a Guinness World Record for the highest average in PDC World Championship history. Yeah, breaking Phil Taylor's previous record of 111.21 that had stood since 2002. Van Barneveld averaged 109.34 in defeat, and that is the number that tells you everything about the scale of what Van Gerwen produced. A losing average of 109.34 would have been the highest in World Championship history in any other match that had ever been played. Van Barneveld played the best darts of any player who ever lost a World Championship match, and he lost by more than a set because Van Gerwen was averaging 114. Van Gerwen arrived at the 2017 final having already broken the World Championship average record earlier in the tournament, and Gary Anderson across the net was the defending champion who had beaten him in the previous year's final. The first 4 sets all went to deciding legs, 2 sets each, total equilibrium. Anderson building towards something that looked like another title. An 86 checkout took the 3rd set, and from that moment the match collapsed in one direction. 14 of the next 16 legs went to Van Gerwen, and the final ended 7 sets to 3. Combined across the match, the 2 players hit 42 maximum 180s, a Guinness World Record for a World Championship final that has not been broken since. And when Van Gerwen lifted that trophy, he held all 7 PDC major ranking titles at the same time. The World Championship, the Premier League, the Grand Slam, the World Match Play, the European Championship, the UK Open, and the World Grand Prix, all his simultaneously. No player in the history of professional darts had ever done that before. And Anderson watched it happen and put it simply, "It is getting harder every year, hats off to the kid." 3 World Championships, a record 7 Premier League titles, the highest average in the history of televised darts, the highest average in World Championship history, 19 consecutive perfect darts that no one has matched. all 7 PDC ranking majors held simultaneously, and over 159 titles in total. That is the ledger. Van Gerwen turned 36 in April 2025, ranked world number 4 heading into 2026 after describing the previous year as his worst ever, and yet he won a Premier League night in early 2026, which is exactly the kind of move he has been making his entire career. Comebacks are not something that happened to him, they are how he operates. From 1 set to 4 down at 17 years old, Chief from 0 sets to 3 down in his first PDC major, from 2 legs to 5 in a Premier League final, from 7 sets to 10 with 1 leg needed against him. Eric Bristow said it before any of it happened. Mark my words, Michael Van Gerwen will knock Phil Taylor off his perch one day and be the best darts player on the planet. What Bristow could not have predicted was that knocking Taylor off would not be the end of the story. It would be the beginning of one that is still being written.